Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation right here, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got a good show for you guys today on this Friday afternoon. In fact, we're going to talk about Republicans possibly losing places where they thought they originally won. And how they're freaking the fuck out. That's a great story. We'll start out with that, of course. Just going right into it, man. We also have Donald Trump threatening more press credentials. We have Michelle Obama speaking out against the president, his reaction. Then we're going to go to a story about Gretchen Whitmer. That is the new candidate-elect for the governor of Michigan. Unsurprising turn of events on that. And then great environmental news on the Keystone XL pipeline. What? The XL pipeline? Wasn't that story buried? Wasn't that done with? Weren't we going to get stuck with the pipeline? Hold. It appears that we might be spared the pipeline after all. Interesting. So, that's good news. So, we got some good news. Actually, there's a lot of good news in today's show. Especially when it comes to possibly some of those elections in Florida and Georgia. So, wow. Even in Arizona. We've got Kristen Sinema. Look, yeah, I know, right? But she's much better than Martha McSally. So, let's be fair on that. Okay. Sinema might actually win. Oh, that's amazing. So maybe the kind of middling blue wave might end up getting a little bigger at the end of the day or next couple of days. Fascinating. So that's what we've got. That's what we're going to talk about in the show today. Please give us a like and share. Sharing helps tremendously. So when you share the show, you help it get out to everybody else, and then they share it, and then they share it. And it just really, really helps viewership, and that helps us a lot right now. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to try to get to 100,000 subscribers. We are at 92,000 and something. So I don't know the exact number, which is why I said something. 92,000, getting close to 93,000. We are so close to hitting 100,000. So, and that's going to make the show get out to a lot more people. That's at least one of the ways that we can beat the algorithm and ensure the show continues to grow. Also, thanks to the patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. That helps out a lot. That's about it for that stuff. Now, there is... oh yeah. So President Trump, apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, is sort of breaking news. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump directed or was personally involved in multiple payments of hush money to women claiming to have sexual encounters with him. So that is a breaking campaign finance law. So that is big, and apparently prosecutors have that evidence. So that's going to be a real big deal going forward, which is likely why he is doing everything he can to minimize Mueller. Now, it's according to what Michael Cohen knows and what he has told prosecutors. So, look, obviously, we're going to need more information on this. And we'll have to see what happens. And it's going to be fascinating going forward. Especially when now Democrats going to be running the House. All right. Anyway, one more piece of quick news to get through. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I told you yesterday that she had fractured 3 of her ribs and was hospitalized. Apparently, she is now up and working, according to her nephew. So... man, that woman's made of iron. I swear to God. Good. We're going to need that energy. We're going to need RBG around. Somebody get us some NAD Plus anti-aging shit immediately, because we're going to need her around for quite some time. But it does show you kind of how resilient she is and why people call her Notorious RBG. So, with that, let's get into the rest of the news. All right. All right. Now, Republicans are now crawling foul as the vote totals in Florida and other states are getting closer and closer to triggering recounts and even runoff elections. Now, Senator Marco Rubio just recently himself had a social media meltdown, claiming in a large series of tweets that Democrats have come to steal the election. Oh, that's great. Oh, this is wonderful. Now, Rubio tweeted out, Broward Elections Department has a history of violating the law, and tweeted out an article where they said a court had found that they improperly handled votes by mail. He also mentioned Democrat lawyers are descending on Florida. They have been very clear they aren't here to make sure every vote is counted. They are here to change the results of election. And Broward is where they plan to do it. Oh, here come the Democrat lawyers wanting to change election totals. Oh, well, where's Marco Rubio's proof? I mean, that is a heavy charge, right? So what proof does he have? Oh, none. Oh, that's right. Now, Rubio's tweets argued that votes are still being tallied, right? Now, which are bringing a number of races within the margin to trigger an automatic recount. He's arguing that those votes shouldn't be counted. In part, because he quotes a law here. He says that the law requires counties to report early voting and vote by mail within 30 minutes after the polls close. Now, is that true? Is he right that they're being counted improperly? And therefore, it's evidence of the Democrats trying to steal the election away from Rick Scott and Andrew Gillum. Well, I mean, look into the facts, right? Now, in response to Rubio's tweets, a reporter for the Sun-Sentinel named Dan Sweeney, he actually explained that Rubio was misinterpreting the rules about reporting of vote-by-mail ballots. Now, Sweeney explains, the 30-minute Election Day deadline Rubio reference is only applicable to tabulated votes. In fact, unofficial results are due by noon the fourth day after the election. So that means that they still have time to get in those unofficial results, right? So what they're doing in Florida right now with the recount is absolutely lawful and legal and not a Democrat plot to take over the election. Now, that's not the only election they're talking about. That's the gubernatorial race. And look, what Rubio was mainly talking about was the election between Bill Nelson and Rick Scott. But it also extends to the gubernatorial election. That's the race between Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis. Now, Gillum already conceded. But wait a minute. The vote is actually getting very close as well. As the counts continued, particularly in Broward County again, the gap between the candidates narrowed so much that it passed the 0.5% automatic recount threshold on Thursday afternoon, according to Politico. Now, that move apparently is so pronounced that, especially in the election for Florida's agriculture commissioner, the Democrat Nikki Fried has now moved into the lead after she trailed her Republican rival on election night. So you have Broward County basically making the difference for a lot of Democrats in the area. In fact, as of Thursday night, officials in Broward County, where about 1.2 million people are registered to vote, gave no indication of the number of ballots still left to count. That has Republicans very, very nervous because they see Broward and they're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. We've got more ballots coming in for Democrats. That's going to push them over the edge. Now, let me give you some more Republicans, first starting out with, of course, Donald Trump. He said, law enforcement is looking into another big corruption scandal. Another one? Having to do with election fraud in Broward and Palm Beach. Florida voted for Rick Scott. It is maybe they actually didn't vote for Rick Scott. I know a lot of Floridians did, but I also know a lot of Floridians voted for Bill Nelson as well. What we're trying to figure out here in doing these recounts is how many people voted for who. Who voted for who, and who has the largest vote count. I don't know if you know this, but the largest vote count denotes the winner. You should know all about that, Trump. Oh, that's right. You actually lost the vote count to Hillary Clinton. Weird. So understand that he doesn't understand the rules. But anyway, he's not the only one. You also have Ali Alexander, a self-described philosopher and Republican activist who runs a PAC that's basically bankrolled by the Mercer family. He is now urging people on Twitter to protest in Broward County. He said, protest everything, disrupt everything. So wait, you want to disrupt a recount? You want to disrupt the vote count to see who actually won? Because look, it could be Rick Scott might have won. It could be Ron DeSantis won. And then if you do the recount and you figure out that, okay, well, more Floridians voted for both Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, well, then I guess there's no questions. But if they stop the recount, they don't do it, then there's always going to be that cloud on whether or not it was an illegitimate election. But of course, they are worried that it is an illegitimate election, an illegitimate result. So they're screaming and crying, don't do it. You can't do it. Don't do the recount. Don't do the recount. In fact, in his Thursday press conference, Rick Scott also weighed in. He actually called for a law enforcement investigation into the election, basically accusing Democrats of trying to steal it. He said, quote, I will not sit idly by while unethical liberals try to steal this election. Hey, look, you want an investigation? You want to waste time? Okay, fair enough. You want to waste time? You want to do, hey, you know what? Your investigation will find nothing. It will find that no votes were stolen. So that'll help progressives. That'll help Democrats. So I guess go ahead, do it. Here's the thing. The only elections Democrats actually try to steal are primaries. That's primaries with progressives involved. And you could look at all the weird shit that happened during the 2016 primary to back that up. And I'm not going to go, and I'm not going to go and relitigate that, but they never steal elections from Republicans. And they certainly do try from progressives, though. But let's go back to the right-wing reaction. Sean Hannity said Democrats are descending on Florida, and, quote, my sources are telling me that more votes are just appearing out of nowhere from Senator Bill Nelson and Gillum. My sources. Who are your sources? You have sources in Florida? It's probably some, guy sitting in his basement making things up. That's probably Sean Hannity's source. The Federalist Sean Davis said Democrats are actively working to steal another election in Florida. Which election did they steal in Florida? Because from what I remember, back in 2000, it would be the Republicans that stole the election from Al Gore. But there's more. Newsmax's John Cardillo says, don't be shocked when Brenda Snipes, Broward County Superintendent of Elections, mysteriously finds more votes for Gillum. It's funny. They actually did find more votes. And not necessarily for Gillum. They don't know who they were for. But a Florida teacher had found more votes, uncounted provisional ballots, in a closet just yesterday. Uncounted votes. Apparently, they forgot to take an entire tub of votes. It was in a plastic tub, sitting in a closet at the school where they held the election, where they held a polling place. Why were those votes not? Why didn't they take it with them? So they did find votes, just mysteriously. Weird. I wonder if it had anything to do with maybe Republicans wanting to hide provisional ballots. Gee, I wonder. More. Bill Mitchell. He's apparently a radio host that I've never heard of. Typical Broward County shenanigans, tens of thousands of votes being found, all magically for the Democrats, never changes. Stay tuned. Well, it could be the Republicans might have been hiding those votes. Mitchell also says, Gillum won Broward with 68% of the vote. If all these magical new votes being found in Broward for Gillum exceed 68%, you know some BS is happening here. Oh, BS, right? Could it be that Gillum is actually just far more popular in Broward County? Could be. Laura Loomer. She also said, doesn't it feel like Democrats are trying to steal the elections in Arizona, Georgia, and Florida? This is so disturbing. So much voter fraud. Now, wait a minute here. Voter fraud. Now, what Rubio and some of the rest of these guys were talking about wasn't voter fraud. It would be election fraud. Where's the voter fraud come from? Voter fraud, by the way, voter fraud is incredibly rare. That is normally in person, right? And look, the votes that are being counted from the provisional ballots, there's not enough of them to point to a large rash, because there had to have been hundreds of that or tens of thousands of people doing in-person voter fraud. And that is ridiculous on its face. It would have to be incredibly well organized. But of course, that's what Republicans think. Like they're busing people in from the caravan to come and vote illegally. Ridiculous, right? There's more. Ann Coulter said, quote, oh, for God's sakes, Florida, didn't 2000 teach you that you can't steal elections in private anymore? Oh, that's an interesting admission from Ann Coulter. Oh, you can't steal elections in private anymore. Well, look, everybody knows that George W. Bush stole the election in 2000. He stole it. The Supreme Court stole that election. Republicans stole that election in 2000. That wasn't necessarily in private. That was very public. We all know this. We all know this. There's more. Fox News' Kevin Court. Sounds like Rubio saying the Democrats are trying to steal an election. Paging the Justice Department. We're going to get the federal government involved to do a sham investigation of electoral fraud in Florida. When it's clear that, look, in Georgia, you had Brian Kemp that was running his own election to governor, where they had a system in place that disenfranchised tens of thousands of African Americans. Oh, but we're not going to don't investigate that. Investigate Florida, because we think the Democrats are trying to steal it. Oh, sure. Here you have Conservative Review, Daniel Horowitz saying, how many races are we going to allow them to steal with these provisional ballots? Lawfare, judicial supremacy, and illegal and unethical ballot harvesting. So now they're saying, well, don't even count provisional ballots. You know what? Sadly, in a lot of places, they don't get counted. But guess what? They give people provisional ballots because they're legal and they're supposed to count. There's more. Hugh Hewitt on MSNBC. He's an MSNBC contributor. How's that for leaning left? He said, Broward County officials are basically asking Democrats, how many votes do you need? Hugh Hewitt should not have a job on MSNBC because he's spouting goddamn conspiracy theories from the far right. And finally, you have Jack Posobiec. He says, they sidelined Roger Stone so they could steal Florida, payback for 2000. Oh, another interesting admission. Payback for what? Jack? I mean, you mean payback for Bush stealing the election from Al Gore? Is that what you mean? Is that what you're saying? Did you just admit that Republicans stole Florida from Al Gore? You admit that they did dirty tricks to install George W. Bush, who went on to crash the entire economy and to put us into two costly wars in the Middle East. Is that what you're admitting? That Republicans stole it and now saying, well, the Democrats, obviously, we stole the election in 2000, so the Democrats want to steal it back this time. That's what's going on. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jack, for making that excellent, astute observation. Now, finally, Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk says, Florida, stay vigilant. The left has stolen races before with voter fraud and finding ballots after the election is over. If you live in Florida, volunteer for the recounts. Don't let the left steal the government mansion or a Senate seat. Voter fraud is real. Voter fraud. Fake news. You ever wonder why they never present proof of this massive voter fraud? Because it doesn't exist. Not even Chris Kobach and his stupid commission. Remember, the president said, here's a commission to go investigate voter fraud. Use all the means at your disposal to investigate voter fraud and then come back. Oh, what happened? What happened? What'd they find? They found the amount of voter fraud was infinitesimally small. A couple thousand out of 6 billion ballots cast. It's something like 0.000000027.5%. Some ridiculously tiny ass number. That was a sham and an embarrassment of an investigation. Voter fraud does not exist. Now, there is voter suppression. There is election fraud. Those things do exist. And for the most part, they happen to be perpetrated by Republicans. Now, I'm not saying 100%, because we've seen Democrats do that too. But mostly, I'd say 80 to 90% Republicans. Don't pretend that it's even at close to being equal. That said, they cry and cry and cry when officials do their jobs and actually count the votes that is supposed to be counted. But see, this is what they're afraid of. Republicans are losing power all over the country, right? And because of that, they're losing their minds. They know that they're a minority, and they know that the only way that they can win now, as demographics change, and as people stop buying the fear-mongering, is that all they have to do is excite their base, using racism and xenophobia and fear, and by literally cheating. The same thing that they accuse Democrats of doing to Republicans without proof. But we know it's projection. We know it's projection because we can prove that they've done it. We can see that they've done it. And when they're caught, or it doesn't work out the way that they want to. For example, I believe it was Scott Walker who was defeated by a Democrat just, in the midterms a couple of days ago. He put in a rule where you can't do a recount. Oops. So it was one of those governors. It might have been Kansas with Chris Kobach, who, by the way, was also crushed. So, look, they cry and cry and cry when it doesn't go their way. But hey, by all means, guys, do an investigation. Go ahead, Justice Department. And while you're doing the witch hunt, we're going to be recounting the votes. And look, if DeSantis and Rick Scott do get enough votes, then at least, hey, we know. At least we know the results. We're not going to dispute the results. But we need to count every vote. Every ballot matters. And so if it turns out that Gillum and Bill Nelson do win in Florida and Stacey Abrams does win, well, then sad day for you. Because democracy just triumphed. Okay. Let's move on here. All right. Now, following the blow-up with Jim Acosta, where Donald Trump ended up pulling his press credentials, Trump once again, when asked, went after Acosta, as well as other journalists. Now, I got a video of that. Let's take a look.
I think Jim Acosta is a very unprofessional man. I think he does.
Let me do that again, because that was a weird error.
I think Jim Acosta is a very unprofessional man. I think he does this with everybody. He gets paid to do that. You know, he gets paid to burst in. He's a very unprofessional guy. Whether it was me or Ronald Reagan or anybody else, he would have done the same thing. Look, I don't think he's a smart person, but he's got a loud voice. And here, wait, David, do you mind if I answer the question? And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't made that decision, but it could be others also. When you're in the White House, this is a very sacred place to me. This is a very special place. You have to treat the White House with respect. You have to treat the presidency with respect. If you've ever seen him dealing with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's a disgrace. And he does it for, you know, the reason. The same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She gets publicity, and then she gets a pay raise, or she gets a contract with, I think, CNN. But she's very nasty, and she shouldn't be. She shouldn't be. You've got to treat the White House and the office of the presidency with respect.
Oh, my God. There's a lot of good stuff in there. For one, going back to what he said about Acosta, after he called him completely unprofessional, which is hilarious, is pot calling the kettle black. Oh, he's not very smart, but he's very loud. I'm sorry, has he ever watched himself? Donald Trump is also very loud. And not very smart. Oh, it's so good. But hey, let's talk about respect, right? Let's talk about respecting the office of the president and respecting the president. Now, I wonder if it was respectful when he called President Obama a literal fake president. Trump was on the air for years on Fox News, spreading the birther conspiracy bullshit, implying he's not a citizen, an illegitimate fake president. Is that respect? Is that respecting the president or the office of the president? No. Now, look, I am, for one, not one to be respectful of positions of power. I'm a very disrespectful person. I think you guys already know that, especially when it comes to power. I criticize Trump relentlessly, and I criticized Obama when he was the president as well. And I believe that you should be able to criticize the president. I believe that. I think that is one of the rights of being an American, that you should be able to criticize the president in the office of the presidency. That said, Trump, well, he would agree with me only if it has to do with someone else other than him. And so here's the hypocrisy here. Trump's saying, I'm president now, and if you're going to criticize me at all, if you're going to be mean to me and ask me questions that I don't want to answer, well, then I'm going to pull your press credentials. And because that is disrespect. How dare you disrespect me? I'm pointing out the massive hypocrisy, right? And look, he can be mad all he wants for the press to criticize him. If I were in his position, I would be very angry too, right? But it's one thing to be angry, and another thing to rip away press credentials from reporters who make you angry, who criticize you and give you tough questions. You didn't see President Obama, for all the shit that they gave him, that you didn't see Obama strip him of press credentials, did you? No, of course not. But here's the thing, the way that Trump is going right now, and he's talking about, even expanding, removing people's press credentials for being rude. By the way they're going, the only people that are going to be left are Fox News and InfoWars. But you know what? That's actually probably the way that he wants it anyway. So you know what? Look, if they start pulling more press credentials, I think the rest of the media should boycott. Okay, hey, if that's the way you want it, fine. I guarantee the media would actually do a better job when they don't respect the president, when they don't give respect to a president that hasn't earned that respect. And that's another thing. You want respect, you got to do something that is worthy of respect. Okay? And so, look, let Fox and InfoWars be the only ones in the room. You know why? Because, look, I think that'll piss off Trump more than anything. Well, why do I say that? It's because he craves the attention. He craves the adulation of the press. He wants them all to respect him, And if you walk out and you say, okay, look, you're not going to pull my credentials. I'm just not going to show up anymore. So go ahead and be petty and pull them afterwards, but it's not going to affect us because I already walked out. What are you going to do about it now? Don't let him have the satisfaction of pulling your credentials if you ask him a tough question. Boycott him first, then let's see how Trump reacts. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We've got Michelle Obama, Donald Trump versus Michelle. That's going to be fun and interesting. Stay right here. Make sure to like the stream, share it out. And if you have any super chats, any questions or anything or comments, we'll read them right after the break. Stay right here. Be back. Around the Nation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Got a super chat that I want to read here and a comment I want to address as well. Comico says, disrespect is earned and Trump has earned everyone's disrespect. But of course, President Victim does what he does best and plays the victim constantly. I think you're right, pointing out that he's President Victim. Oh, everybody's so mean to me. The press is so mean to me. Everybody's so unprofessional. Really, dude? Really? I know, right? Then one more comment here. that I want to read. Metrohen says, would ignoring him also allow him to do all kinds of terrible stuff without people knowing? Look, so maybe I need to be a little bit more clear, do some clarity here. I don't mean like ignore the stuff the president does and not report on it. No, what I mean is stop, like, give away your like press credentials when it comes to, because basically what the press pool does, the White House press pool, is they're the ones that go and ask him questions, right? Questions that he and Sarah Huckabee Sanders don't even want to answer anyway. So it's like, what's the point? Yeah, Jim Acosta comes in and he asks tough questions and the president doesn't answer them. So I guess what's the point of being in there when he's just basically going to yell at you to your face? And that's exactly what he does, calls the press the enemy of the people, as the press is sitting right there. Right there. So, you know, why give him that audience? Why, you know, do any of that? You can still report on what he's doing, but what I'm talking about is the access and going into that press room, that press briefing room, and asking him questions. You deny him that, and he's going to get super pissed. But anyway, that said, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the super chat. Mark Ortiz apparently thinks everyone is Negan. I'm not sure what that means. But that said, let's dive in. Got more stories for you. So let's go to Michelle. Okay. Now, First Lady Michelle Obama is coming out with a new memoir, and in it, she goes after President Trump and some of the conspiracies he basically created against her husband. Now, in the book called Becoming, she writes, the whole Bertha thing was crazy and mean-spirited. Of course, its underbelly, bigotry, and xenophobia hardly concealed. But it was also dangerous, deliberately meant to stir up the wingnuts and kooks. Already, I know the wingnuts and kooks probably reading that or watching this video right now are furiously typing away on their keyboards. Ah! I can't wait to see what kind of argle-bargle you guys come up with. Anyway, and that said, she continues, what if someone with an unstable mind loaded a gun and drove to Washington? What if that person went looking for our girls? Donald Trump, with his loud and ever reckless innuendos, was putting my family's safety at risk, and for this, I'd never forgive him. Look, hey, she's right. That is what happened, by the way. The White House, I remember doing stories where the White House was literally shot at during the Obama presidency by these, I'm assuming some of these wingnuts and kooks that were spreading literal fake news about the president. Not only that, but you had people spreading like conspiracy theories about Pizzagate, about Hillary Clinton running an underground sex dungeon in a pizza shop. And that nearly got people killed when a deranged gunman went into the pizza shop and started shooting at people. So that kind of bullshit, that kind of fear-mongering, conspiracy level, you know, fuck nuttery, nearly got people killed. And so, yes, they used it against the president as well. And I don't blame her at all for being angry and for not wanting to forgive him, right? Now, here's the thing, right? So now, let's talk about some of the conspiracies floated by these wingnuts, right? The other conspiracies other than Pizzagate. You remember these are Obama specific. Do you remember the invasion of Texas by President Obama? Operation Jade Helm? Where everybody was supposed to be forced into Walmart FEMA camps? That ever happen? What happened to the invasion of Texas? What happened to Jade Helm? Oh, right, nothing. Because it wasn't an invasion of Texas. What about the third term of Obama? I don't see Obama in the third term. What about the Muslim Sharia law takeover of fucking Kentucky or Kansas or Oklahoma. Yes, the Muslims are coming for Oklahoma, said no one that is sane. Come on, man. None of these things happen because it's insanity. Insanity. But these were the conspiracy theories spread by the right wing, and of course, by one of Trump's favorite commentators, the now gay frog, Alex Jones. He's literally now a gay frog. But anyway, so like I said, she is absolutely 100% right about the wingnuts and the kooks, right? Now, of course, after saying this, here we had King Kook, who decided he wanted to weigh in. Trump told reporters on Friday, quote, "She got paid a lot of money to write a book, and they always insist that you come up with controversial." That's the quote. Controversial what? Does this guy even know how to finish a sentence? Seriously? You got to come up with controversial. Controversial what? Quote? Just finish your goddamn sentence. Anyway, enough on that. He continues. I'll give you a little controversy back. I'll never forgive Barack Obama for what he did to our United States military. By not funding it properly, it was depleted. What he did to our military made this country very unsafe for you and you and you. Jesus Christ. Okay. Depleted. Now, we've heard this before during the campaign. The military is depleted. It's depleted. What? No, it's not even close. Are you kidding me? Look, during Obama's administration, I've criticized him for dropping bombs in the Middle East and giving hundreds of billions of dollars to the military. Now, what happened, of course, is sequestration, which Obama had nothing to do with. Sequestration was basically forced both domestic and military cuts because Congress couldn't figure out what the fuck it was doing. They couldn't figure out how to come to an agreement at all. So these cuts were supposed to be so painful for both Republicans and Democrats. Again, cutting, funding on the domestic side for Democrats and cutting, spending on the military side for Republicans. And yet, they still couldn't come to an agreement. This was Congress. This had nothing to do with President Obama. Nonetheless, what does King Idiot do? Blames Obama. Of course he does. Of course. Depleted my ass. Look, here's the thing. Even with those mandatory cuts from sequestration, we still spent more under Obama than any other country combined when it comes to the military. So don't talk about depleted. As far as unsafe. Unsafe? Who got Osama bin Laden? Oh, right, Obama. But see, that's not the point, right? This whole military thing has nothing to do with what Michelle was talking about. She was talking about the insane, sometimes racist conspiracies surrounding her and her family from people who became Trump supporters and Trump voters. That rhetoric, that is dangerous. And look, right-wing terrorism, that is really hard to say. Say that 10 times fast. That has surged in the U.S. since Donald Trump has gotten elected. So, look, out of the 65 terror incidents in 2017, 37 of them were tied to racist, anti-Muslim, homophobic, anti-Semitic, fascist, anti-government, or xenophobic motivations. That is a lot. That is more than Islamic and left-wing terrorism combined. That's just last year. Over the last 10 years, over 70% of all terror events were done by right-wing domestic terrorists. All egged on by conspiracies. Just the last couple of shootings, right? The Pittsburgh shooter, for example. He went into a mosque, or I'm sorry, not a mosque. He went into a synagogue and shot 11 people. Killed 11 people. Because he said that the Jews were funding the caravan. He was told He was fed this steady diet of bullshit conspiracy propaganda about the Jews and about the caravan, of course, spread by people that are loyal to Donald Trump. And then he ended up murdering people for it. The guy who sent pipe bombs to prominent Democrats, Democratic officials. I know this was like 3 shootings ago, but still, he did so because of the caravan and because of the conspiracy theories about George Soros. This is what they have on the right wing. Michelle Obama is absolutely right. This rhetoric is absolutely dangerous. It puts people's lives in danger. So, please, talk about how America is now safer under Trump. It does not bear that out. And how insane conspiracy theories spread by the right, including by Donald Trump himself, are not an issue. Oh, no, it's the left-wing mobs, it's the terrorism. It's, breaking down Tucker Carlson's story. I don't even agree with that. I think you shouldn't do that. And I think it was wrong that they were out in front of Tucker Carlson's house. That said, if you think those two things are equal, if you think the two sides are the same, and that you could say, oh, both sides, both sides, both sides. Both sides are not equal. Because while some on the left have talked about doing violent things, you can point at many of the violent instances happening on the far right. And of course, it's fed by these conspiracies. Okay. I think I'm very, very clear on this. All right. All right. Let's go to some trashing Democrats. Favorite part of the show. All right. Now, fresh off her win, Democratic Governor-elect Gretchen Whitmer has elected to put a corporate healthcare executive on her transition team. Well, that is no surprise. This is according to a great article written by Zed Jelani in The Intercept. Now, according to Jelani, Whitmer named one of her honorary co-chairs of her transition team. That guy is Daniel Lepp. He is the president and CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. So this guy is going to be her honorary co-chair for her gubernatorial transition. Now, this should not be a shock to anybody who's paid attention to her during the primary. She has gotten a lot of money from the healthcare industry. As The Intercept notes, during her campaign against progressive Abdul al-Sayed, she ended up getting a lot of help from her friends in the industry. For example, Whitmer was hosted at a fundraiser thrown by lobbyists for Blue Cross Blue Shield. She ended up getting $144,000 during a single day at the event. That is a lot more than she could have raised from regular donors. So she went after the big donors, her friends in the industry, of course, people who have worked with her and known her for a very long time. In fact, she calls Daniel Lepp one of her inspirations for getting into politics. Again, the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, that's great. Now, it should be noted that the reason these healthcare lobbyists were raising so much money for Whitmer, not just because of the personal ties, not just because her father was Richard Whitmer, who was also the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, but because her opponent was campaigning on establishing a statewide single-payer healthcare system. Now, look, I've spoken to El Sayed. I went to his rallies, and he said the best way to help Michigan families was to establish a single-payer system and get rid of the insurance corporations. Now, obviously, Blue Cross and Blue Shield does not like that approach because it would basically end their usefulness. They wouldn't be in business anymore because you would have a statewide single-payer healthcare system that would not be private insurance. Now, during the campaign, Whitmer was very defensive against that. She campaigned against single-payer healthcare, and even when after she won the nomination, she did not tack to the left on that issue. She decided to go, no, let's go with more affordable health insurance instead of, you know what, that's a great idea, single-payer universal healthcare for everybody, for all Michiganders. Now, when you criticized her for that, she said this: it's extremely sexist to say that a woman is beholden to her father's former employer. That's what she told CNN. Here's the thing, you're going to play the sexism card. It's not sexism at all. This is about getting money from corporations and having personal ties with those corporations and having them be your donors and serving the people, right? So are you going to serve the people or are you going to serve your donors? See, that's why I like not taking corporate PAC donations. That's what I like. One of the reasons I liked El Sayed. He can take corporate PAC donations. Therefore, he had to work for the people because that's who was funding him. Whitmer, funded by corporations, mainly Blue Cross Blue Shield, well, she's going to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, sexism has nothing to do with this. Now, that said, now that she's won the election, now that she's beaten Bill Schuette, who, of course, was a horrendous candidate, I feel like it is our responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable. And this is one of the main things. Somebody who believes in single payer, who knows that it is much more effective, not at just delivering healthcare, but also doing so at a lesser cost for taxpayers and giving better results. I feel like Whitmer serving these corporate interests is not in the best interest of of the people of Michigan. Now, as I said before, is she better than Schuette? Absolutely. So I look, I don't regret voting for Gretchen Whitmer. I voted for her in the general election, but I voted for El Sayed in the primary. Why? It's because he was far more progressive. Whitmer did run to the right of El Sayed, but nonetheless, she does have a more progressive platform and was more pro-labor, and she'll be a decent governor. But on healthcare, look, single payer, we need it badly here in Michigan. We have hundreds of thousands of people who are uninsured or underinsured because our costs are prohibitive. So, look, and if you want to give credit for Whitmer, and I know there's a lot of you who support her that might be saying, look, she has done a lot of stuff for Michigan families. She helped expand Medicaid. And I think that's wonderful. But she needs to take the next step and begin building the foundation of a single-payer system. Now, will she do that? I don't know. Honestly, she's taken a lot of money from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And now with this appointment to her honorary co-chair position of somebody from Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think it's not as likely. But I do think with enough pressure from the left, enough people pushing her on that issue, then maybe anything can happen. But this is all about holding our politicians accountable. And so, you know, I think that it is important to push her on that issue of single payer. And so that's what we need to do. Keep pushing until we get single payer. Okay. I'm going to take one more quick break here. We'll come back. We got a great story on Keystone XL Pipeline and more stuff. So we'll be back around the nation. Everybody, welcome back. Around the Nation here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Gotta address something here. I know a lot of you guys ask for music for the breaks. There's a reason that I don't do that. For one, copyright. So if I play anything copyright, I get copyright strikes on the channel. So I can't have that happen. I believe Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo, got hit with his own copyright strikes and got locked out of his account. So can't really do that. I would love to. I would love to be able to play music during the breaks, but there's a reason that I can't. So blame the suits. All right. That said, there's a super chat here from Metrohen, says, love the show. Thanks for doing what you do. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. You know, your donations go to help the show, helps keep us on the air. So thank you guys. The show wouldn't exist without you. All right. That said, let's dive into the last story. It's a good story. We'll end your week on a good note. All right.
I think Jim Acosta's a very
All right, that was the wrong button. All right, here we go. A federal judge has blocked President Trump on the issue of the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, according to The Hill, in a major victory for environmentalists and indigenous rights groups, Judge Brian Morris of the Court for the District of Montana overturned President Trump's permit for the Canada to Texas pipeline. Now, President Trump, of course, signed that right after taking office last year. It was one of the first things that he did was, I'm going to do the Keystone XL pipeline because Obama said no. Really? Okay. Well, that kind of explains why President Trump did what he did, because Obama said no. Now, there's a reason, of course, Obama said no, and that kind of factors in to why this Judge Morris, made the decision. Now, Morris's ruling repeatedly faulted the Trump administration for reversing President Obama's 2015 denial without proper explanation. He said the State Department simply discarded climate change concerns related to the project. Well, of course that's what he did. That's exactly what happened. He doesn't believe in climate change. He refuses to believe the science because he's too stupid to understand the science. And even if he did, he probably doesn't give a shit about the environment. He's old anyway. So he's going to be dead before the worst happens, or he'll be able to shelter himself because he's got millions of dollars. He's wealthy. But anyway, let's get more into the ruling here. Now, the Trump administration had tried to argue that federal courts didn't have the right to review Trump's approval, saying that it extended from his constitutional authority over border crossings. However, the court rejected that argument. In rejecting the permit, Morris relied mainly on arguing that the State Department didn't properly account for factors such as low oil prices, the cumulative impacts of greenhouse gases from Keystone and the Alberta Clipper pipeline, as well as the risk of oil spills. Now, how many stories have we done on oil spills? A lot. You know why? Because oil spills happen all the time. All the time. Now, in fact, Judge Morris wrote, the major spills that occurred between 2014 and 2017 qualify as significant. The department would have evaluated the spills in the 2014 environmental review had the information been available. The judge also said that the State Department didn't properly justify its switch from rejecting the pipeline in 2015 under the Obama administration to approving it in 2017 under Trump. So he's basically saying, look, all the evidence that we have from the environmental review says that this is bad for the environment. There are multiple oil spills, and in approving the pipeline, you didn't give good enough reason for looking at those concerns. And look, one reason would be, okay, the economic benefits, which also in the review were not proven. Now, Morris said that such a change isn't completely prohibited. Yes, he could do that, but the State Department needs to explain why a little bit better, especially in the face of these climate change arguments that the State Department under Obama had made back in 2015. Now, Morris said, the department's 2017 conclusory analysis that climate-related impacts from Keystone subsequently would prove inconsequential, and its corresponding reliance on this conclusion as the centerpiece of its policy change requires the department to provide a reasoned explanation. Now, he cites, of course, a court precedent on similar policy changes. So it went from the Obama policy of saying, we're going to reject this because of the significant environmental impacts. Trump comes in and the DOJ says, under him, we believe those are inconsequential. Well, if you don't have a good reason to say that they're inconsequential, well, then you really don't have a leg to stand on when it comes legally, right? And that's what this judge is saying. He's like, you can't do that. In fact, he said, the department instead simply discarded prior factual findings related to climate change to support its course reversal. We don't have to explain anything. We just don't believe in climate change. And we don't have any facts to back us up, but we're going to toss it out anyway. Well, there you go. Now, Trump, of course, is not happy about this. Had a little bit of a meltdown. He said, quote, this ruling is a political decision and a disgrace. 48,000 jobs. I approved it. It's ready to start. Wait, 48,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs. Is that true? No. The 48,000 jobs is a lie. Now, when he approved it, actually, back in 2017, he said, if we can get that pipeline built, a lot of jobs, 28,000 jobs, great construction jobs. But wait a minute. He says 48,000 jobs now. He said 28,000 then. Where'd the other 20,000 jobs come from? He made them up. He made it up. He literally added jobs to an already massively inflated number. Now, how do I know that? Well, it's because in the Obama administration, the State Department issued a report that found that there would be a total of 3,900 direct construction jobs if the pipeline was built over 1 year, and 1,950 if the work was spread over 2 years. So 2,000 to 4,000 jobs, temporary construction jobs. That is nowhere near 48,000 jobs. He literally made up about 4,400 jobs out of nowhere. Trump is a pathological liar. That is an enormous lie. But of course, he doesn't care because he makes things up all the time. And then when he gets called out on it, he's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I didn't do anything. Ridiculous. No, look, liars are going to lie, and that's exactly what he does. Nonetheless, this is a great victory. Morris ruled that the State Department's conclusions on the pipeline's impacts on endangered species need updating, and that the agency may need to redo some cultural resource examinations among the pipeline's route. Now, the Trump administration, while it is halted right now, can still do an appeal, of course, but their appeal will likely go to the 9th District, or the 9th Circuit. Now, why is this a good thing? Well, it turns out the 9th Circuit frequently rules against Donald Trump and Republicans, which is awesome. Now, they had ruled against travel bans from people from certain Muslim-majority countries and the ban on transgender people joining the military. So it goes to the 9th Circuit. Well, then, it's going to be upheld at least for quite some time before it gets improved. And that actually really helps the environment because the more time it takes to build that pipeline, the less we have to worry about the environmental damage and the less we have to worry about, of course, pipeline spills. So now, of course, Trump not happy about this. said, I guess it'll go up ending, it'll end up going to the Ninth Circuit. We're slowly putting in new judges in the Ninth Circuit. Everything goes to the Ninth Circuit. Everything. Oh, you can tell the bitter in his voice. Bitter man indeed. Yeah, everything goes to the Ninth Circuit. God damn it. I want to go to the Supreme Court. Yeah, of course you do. Because you just put on 2 very, very pro-corporate Supreme Court justices. Look, all we can do is hope that it gets delayed long enough to where, I don't know, we get a progressive wave in 2020. Here's hoping, right? But, look, we are going to be in trouble, though, for a while, to be honest. With all the judges that Trump has gotten through. For example, as I said before, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, they're very, very pro-corporate. They're going to be there for a very long time. And all the judges in these district and circuit courts that Chuck Schumer had allowed to get through and to get appointed, they're going to be there for a long time too. And so they're going to have a big impact. So I don't know what's going to happen, but look, the longer we can delay this, the better off the environment is going to be. Because Keystone XL is a terrible, terrible project. And even though it'll give us a few temporary jobs, the environment cannot handle it anymore. We need less pipelines, and we need more renewable energy projects if we're going to survive climate change. But anyway, this is good news. We'll see where it goes from here. All right, guys. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. We will not be here on Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday. So we'll see you then. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thanks to the people who are donating on Super Chat. I'm going to see if I have a couple of those. Evil Naughty Smurfette says, looks like it's time for one of us to write a song for you. And Peter S. says, there's lots of really good copyright-free music available. Lots of great artists looking for exposure. Thanks for all you do. I'll have to look into that, Peter and Smurfette. Thank you for all that. Thank you for donating. Thank you for watching the show, liking and sharing. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 100,000 subscribers. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you next week.